Welcome to the shadows where truth bleeds into darkness, and ancient secrets whisper through the veil of time. For centuries, hidden societies have guarded knowledge that was never meant for mortal minds. Tonight, we pierce that veil and drag these sinister truths into the light. What you're about to discover will fundamentally alter your understanding of the world around you. These aren't mere conspiracy theories or folklore tales shared around dying campfires. These are documented practices, rituals, and beliefs that have shaped human civilization from the shadows for millennia. The occult has always existed in the periphery of human consciousness, lurking just beyond the reach of ordinary perception. But make no mistake, its influence permeates every aspect of our society. From the symbols carved into government buildings to the rituals performed in boardrooms across the globe, occult practices have been woven into the very fabric of power structures that govern our daily lives. The question isn't whether these practices exist, but rather how deeply they've penetrated the institutions we trust. Throughout history, those who've attempted to expose these secrets have faced persecution, exile, or worse. Yet fragments of truth have survived, scattered across ancient texts, hidden manuscripts, and whispered confessions of those brave enough to speak. Tonight, we piece together these fragments to reveal a tapestry of darkness that stretches back to the dawn of civilization itself. The first sinister secret lies in the true origin of modern banking systems. What most people don't realize is that the foundational principles of international finance were established by occult practitioners who understood the metaphysical properties of energy exchange. These early financiers weren't simply businessmen seeking profit. They were initiates of ancient mystery schools who recognized that money itself is a form of magical energy. The symbols adorning our currency aren't random decorative elements. They're carefully chosen sigils designed to channel and direct this financial energy according to occult principles. The all-seeing eye atop the pyramid on the dollar bill isn't merely a symbol of divine providence as commonly taught. It represents the Eye of Horus, an ancient Egyptian symbol of protection, royal power, and good health. But more importantly, it signifies the Watchers, those who observe and influence from positions of hidden authority. The pyramid beneath it represents the hierarchical structure of occult knowledge, with the masses forming the base and the enlightened few occupying the apex. This symbolism extends far beyond currency into the architecture of power itself. C was designed according to occult principles, with its street layout forming a perfect pentagram when viewed from above. The placement of monuments and government buildings follows ley lines, invisible channels of earth energy that occult practitioners believe can be harnessed for magical purposes. The Washington Monument stands as a massive obelisk, a phallic symbol representing the masculine principle of creation and power that the ancient Egyptians used to channel solar energy. But the influence of occult symbolism reaches even deeper into our daily lives. Corporate logos worldwide incorporate esoteric symbols designed to subconsciously influence consumer behavior. The Nike swoosh represents the wing of Nike, the Greek goddess of victory, invoking her power to drive competitive desire. The Apple logo with its distinctive bite taken out references the forbidden fruit from the Garden of Eden, symbolically suggesting that consumers are partaking in forbidden knowledge or experience through their products. The entertainment industry serves as perhaps the most visible conduit for occult messaging. Music videos, movies, and television shows are saturated with symbolic imagery that operates on multiple levels of meaning. While surface viewers see entertainment, those versed in occult symbolism recognize a sophisticated system of communication that transcends language barriers and speaks directly to the subconscious mind. The practice of ritual magic has evolved far beyond the stereotypical image of robed figures chanting around candles. Modern practitioners have adapted ancient techniques for contemporary applications. Using corporate boardrooms as sacred spaces and quarterly earnings reports as magical workings designed to manifest desired outcomes. The timing of major business announcements often coincides with astrological events. Product launches align with lunar phases, and merger agreements incorporate numerological principles that would be familiar to any medieval alchemist. Secret societies continue to operate within the highest echelons of government, finance, and industry. These organizations aren't merely social clubs for the wealthy and powerful. They're initiatory orders that preserve and transmit occult knowledge across generations. The Bohemian Grove Gathering in California represents just one visible manifestation of these elite occult practices, where world leaders participate in mock sacrificial rituals beneath a 40-foot owl statue representing Moloch, an ancient deity associated with child sacrifice. The medical establishment itself has roots in occult practice, with the caduceus symbol of modern medicine directly descended from the staff of Hermes, the messenger god who guided souls between worlds. Pharmaceutical companies employ alchemical principles in drug development, seeking to transmute base substances into healing elixirs. The placebo effect, widely acknowledged by medical science, operates on principles that ancient magicians would recognize as sympathetic magic, where belief itself becomes a catalyst for physical transformation. Educational institutions serve as recruitment grounds for occult societies, with prestigious universities housing secret societies that identify and cultivate future leaders. The skull and crossbones symbol of Yale's Skull and Bones Society represents death and rebirth, the fundamental principle of occult initiation. Members undergo psychological death and rebirth rituals designed to strip away previous identities and forge new ones aligned with occult principles. The technology sector has become a new frontier for occult practice, with artificial intelligence development following principles that mirror ancient attempts to create artificial life. The quest to upload human consciousness into digital formats represents a technological version of the alchemical goal of achieving immortality through the transmutation of matter and spirit. Silicon Valley companies employ feng shui principles in office design, schedule product launches according to astrological considerations, and incorporate sacred geometry into user interface design. Religious institutions, far from being opposed to occult practice, often serve as repositories for esoteric knowledge hidden within exoteric teachings. The Vatican's secret archives contain texts on astrology, alchemy, and ceremonial magic that reveal the Church's historical engagement with occult studies. Many religious symbols carry dual meanings, presenting sanitized interpretations to the masses while preserving deeper occult significance for initiated clergy. The food industry employs occult principles in ways that would shock most consumers. Fast food chains use color psychology, architectural design, and even specific frequencies of background music to influence purchasing decisions and consumption patterns. The golden arches of McDonald's form the astrological symbol for Virgo, the harvest goddess, while the red and yellow color scheme triggers primal responses associated with fire and earth elements. Weather modification technologies have advanced far beyond cloud seeding into realms that ancient weather magicians would recognize as familiar territory. High-frequency active auroral research programs can manipulate atmospheric conditions in ways that mirror traditional storm-calling rituals. The ability to influence weather patterns represents a form of applied magic that affects entire populations without their knowledge or consent. The pharmaceutical industry's approach to mental health treatment increasingly resembles traditional shamanic practices, with controlled substances being used to induce altered states of consciousness for therapeutic purposes. The recent acceptance of psychedelic therapy in mainstream medicine represents a return to practices that indigenous shamans have employed for millennia. The difference lies in the clinical setting and profit motive rather than the fundamental techniques employed. Architectural design in major cities follows occult principles that most residents never recognize. Building heights, street layouts, and the placement of public art often incorporate sacred geometry and astrological considerations. The Freedom Tower in New York City stands at exactly 1,776 feet, not merely as a patriotic reference, but as a numerological working designed to channel specific energies. The building's angular design incorporates triangular elements that focus and direct these energies according to occult architectural principles. The gaming industry has become a sophisticated platform for occult education, introducing players to magical systems, mythological beings, and ritual practices through immersive gameplay. Role-playing games serve as training grounds for visualization techniques, energy manipulation, and symbolic thinking that form the foundation of practical magic. Players unknowingly develop occult skills while believing they're simply entertaining themselves. Social media platforms operate on principles that ancient magicians would recognize as forms of mass ritual. The simultaneous focusing of millions of minds on trending topics creates collective thought forms that can influence reality in measurable ways. The algorithms that determine what content users see function as modern versions of divination systems, predicting and shaping human behavior through mathematical formulas that mirror astrological calculations. The fashion industry employs color magic, symbolic imagery, and seasonal timing to influence consumer consciousness and social behavior. Fashion weeks are scheduled according to astronomical events, with collections designed to channel specific energies associated with different times of the year. The colors, patterns, and styles promoted each season follow occult principles designed to influence the collective unconscious of society. Advertising agencies employ neuro-linguistic programming, subliminal messaging, and depth psychology techniques that operate on the same principles as traditional spellcasting. The repetition of brand names, the strategic use of imagery, and the emotional associations created through advertising campaigns function as mass hypnosis techniques designed to program consumer behavior. The sports industry incorporates ritual elements that serve occult purposes beyond mere entertainment. Stadium architecture often follows sacred geometric principles, with playing fields serving as ritual spaces where collective energy is generated and directed. Team mascots frequently represent archetypal beings from mythology, while the timing of major sporting events often coincides with astronomical phenomena. The funeral industry has evolved beyond its traditional role of disposing of the dead into a sophisticated system for managing the transition of consciousness from physical to non-physical states. Modern funeral practices incorporate elements of ancient death magic, with embalming techniques designed to preserve not just the physical body, but certain aspects of the deceased's energy matrix. The agricultural industry operates on principles that ancient fertility cults would recognize as familiar territory. Planting schedules follow lunar cycles, crop rotation patterns mirror seasonal magical workings, and the genetic modification of plants represents a technological version of the alchemical transformation of matter. The use of pesticides and fertilizers creates chemical changes in soil that affect not just plant growth, but the energetic properties of the land itself. The transportation industry has become a vehicle for occult influence through the symbolic imagery incorporated into vehicle design, the numerological significance of route numbers, and the timing of infrastructure projects. Highway systems often follow ancient trade routes and ley lines, creating a network of energy channels that span entire continents. The automotive industry employs mythological names and symbols that invoke specific archetypal energies, with vehicle designs incorporating aerodynamic principles that mirror the sacred geometry found in temple architecture. The reality we perceive through our senses represents only a fraction of what actually exists around us. These 33 secrets merely scratch the surface of a vast underground network of knowledge and practice that shapes our world in ways most people never imagine. The question isn't whether these influences exist, but whether we'll continue to ignore them or begin to understand their true scope and implications. The veil between the seen and unseen grows thinner with each passing day. Those who understand these hidden currents of power and influence hold tremendous advantages over those who remain ignorant. Knowledge truly is power, and the most potent knowledge has always been kept hidden from the masses. But darkness cannot survive in the light of truth, and the time has come for these shadows to be illuminated. What you do with this knowledge is up to you. You can dismiss it as fantasy, file it away as interesting but irrelevant information, or begin to see the world through new eyes. The choice is yours, but remember that ignorance is not bliss when that ignorance leaves you vulnerable to forces you don't understand. The deeper you venture into this labyrinth of hidden knowledge, the more you begin to understand that these occult influences extend far beyond what we've already uncovered. You see, what most people fail to grasp is that these esoteric systems operate through layers upon layers of concealment, each one more sophisticated than the last. And as we peel back these veils, what emerges is a picture so comprehensive, so all-encompassing, that it becomes impossible to ignore the systematic nature of this grand design. Consider for a moment the realm of entertainment and media manipulation. Every single piece of content that reaches your eyes, your ears, your consciousness has been carefully crafted not just to entertain, but to program. The movie industry doesn't just tell stories, it implants archetypal patterns directly into the collective unconscious. These aren't random narratives, they're carefully constructed mythological frameworks designed to shape how you perceive reality itself. The hero's journey, the savior complex, the dystopian future, these recurring themes aren't coincidental. They're deliberate psychological conditioning masquerading as entertainment. But here's where it gets truly sinister. The timing of these releases, the symbolic imagery embedded within them, the subliminal messages woven throughout, all of this follows ancient hermetic principles that most viewers never even notice. The entertainment industry serves as a massive ritual space where millions of minds are synchronized to receive the same symbolic programming simultaneously. When a blockbuster film is released globally, you're witnessing one of the largest coordinated consciousness manipulation events in human history. The music industry operates on similar principles, but with even more direct access to your emotional and spiritual centers. Sound frequencies, lyrical content, rhythmic patterns, these aren't artistic choices. They're technological tools for consciousness alteration. Certain frequencies can induce specific brainwave states, emotional responses, even physiological changes. The ancient mystery schools understood this power of sound, and today's music industry has weaponized these principles on an unprecedented scale. Now let's examine the pharmaceutical and medical establishment through this occult lens. What you'll discover is that modern medicine operates on principles that would be completely familiar to ancient alchemists and practitioners of the healing arts. The difference is that today's system has been inverted. Instead of seeking to heal and elevate human consciousness, it seeks to suppress and control it. The very substances being prescribed as medicine often serve to disconnect people from their natural intuitive abilities, their spiritual awareness, their capacity for independent thought. The psychiatric industry, in particular, represents one of the most sophisticated forms of consciousness suppression ever devised. By pathologizing natural human experiences, labeling spiritual awakening as mental illness, and chemically restraining those who begin to see through the illusion, this system effectively neutralizes potential threats to the established order. What our ancestors would have recognized as shamanic crisis, mystical experience, or spiritual emergence is now drugged into submission and labeled as disorder. Educational institutions serve as the primary indoctrination centers, where these suppressive systems are normalized and internalized from the earliest possible age. The structure of modern education, the rigid schedules, the authoritarian hierarchy, the punishment-based learning, the emphasis on conformity over creativity, these aren't educational methodologies. They're behavioral conditioning programs designed to produce compliant workers and consumers, not independent thinkers or spiritually awakened individuals. The hidden curriculum extends far beyond the official subjects being taught. Students are being programmed with specific worldviews, value systems, and belief structures that serve the interests of those who control the system. History is rewritten to obscure the true nature of power structures. Science is presented as dogma rather than inquiry. Philosophy and critical thinking are systematically discouraged in favor of memorization and regurgitation. Religious institutions, rather than serving as genuine spiritual sanctuaries, have been co-opted to serve as control mechanisms. The original mystical teachings, the direct experiential knowledge of divine reality, the practices that actually elevate consciousness, these have been systematically removed or distorted beyond recognition. What remains are hollow rituals, guilt-based control systems, and intermediary priesthoods that stand between individuals and their direct relationship with the divine. But perhaps the most insidious aspect of this entire system is how it operates through the manipulation of human sexuality and reproductive energy. The occult traditions have always recognized sexual energy as the most powerful creative force available to human beings. It's the energy of creation itself, the force through which consciousness manifests in physical form. By corrupting, suppressing, and misdirecting this energy, those who control the system effectively cut people off from their most fundamental source of power. The pornography industry, the hookup culture, the destruction of traditional pair bonding, the confusion around gender identity, these aren't social phenomena. They're engineered attacks on human reproductive and creative energy. When this energy is scattered, degraded, or channeled into destructive patterns, individuals lose access to their natural spiritual power and become much easier to control and manipulate. Food systems represent another vector of control that operates through occult principles. The ancient traditions understood that what you consume directly affects your consciousness, your spiritual sensitivity, your ability to perceive beyond the physical realm. Modern industrial food production deliberately includes substances that calcify the pineal gland, disrupt endocrine function, and create addictive dependencies. These aren't side effects, they're intended consequences designed to keep the population in a state of spiritual numbness and physical dependency. The additives, preservatives, artificial flavors, and chemical cocktails that permeate the food supply serve specific functions in consciousness suppression. Fluoride calcifies the third eye. High fructose corn syrup creates insulin resistance that affects brain function. Artificial colors and flavors overstimulate certain neural pathways while suppressing others. The entire industrial food system is essentially a mass medication program administered without consent or awareness. Transportation systems, urban planning, and architectural design all follow principles derived from sacred geometry and feng shui, but applied in reverse to create environments that drain rather than energize human consciousness. Cities are designed as energy harvesting systems where human life force is collected and redirected towards specific focal points. The layout of streets, the placement of buildings, the flow of traffic, these create energetic patterns that influence the collective consciousness of everyone living within these systems. The technology sector represents perhaps the most sophisticated form of consciousness manipulation ever devised. Social media platforms, search engines, and digital devices don't just provide information and connectivity, they actively reshape neural pathways, attention spans, and cognitive processes. These technologies are designed to be addictive, to fragment attention, and to create dependency relationships that make independent thought increasingly difficult. The algorithms that determine what information you see, the dopamine reward systems built into every app, the electromagnetic frequencies emitted by devices, these represent a level of consciousness manipulation that surpasses anything attempted in previous eras. Your smartphone isn't just a communication device. It's a portable consciousness alteration system that tracks your thoughts, predicts your behavior, and influences your decisions in real time. Weather modification technologies, often dismissed as conspiracy theories, operate according to principles that were well understood by ancient civilizations. The ability to influence atmospheric conditions, to direct energy through the ionosphere, to create specific electromagnetic patterns in the atmosphere. These capabilities exist and are being used to influence not just weather patterns, but the collective electromagnetic environment that affects human consciousness. The ionosphere serves as a kind of planetary nervous system, and by manipulating the electromagnetic patterns within it, those who control these technologies can influence the collective mood, cognitive function, and spiritual awareness of entire populations. The frequencies being transmitted through various technological systems create a kind of electromagnetic cage that makes it difficult for human consciousness to access higher dimensional awareness. Sports and entertainment spectacles serve as massive ritual events that channel collective emotional energy towards specific outcomes. The timing of these events, the symbolic elements incorporated into them, the emotional states they generate in millions of viewers simultaneously, these create focused beams of collective consciousness that can be directed towards specific goals. What appears to be entertainment is actually large-scale energy harvesting and direction. The corporate logos, team colors, halftime shows, and ceremonial elements of major sporting events all incorporate occult symbolism and timing that follows ancient ritual patterns. When millions of people focus their attention and emotional energy on these events simultaneously, they're unknowingly participating in consciousness manipulation rituals of unprecedented scale and sophistication. Transportation networks, supply chains, and logistics systems create patterns of energy flow that mirror the ley line systems recognized by ancient civilizations. The movement of goods, people, and information follows specific routes and timing that create energetic patterns across the landscape. These systems don't just move physical materials, they create streams of consciousness and energy that can be directed and manipulated by those who understand the underlying principles. The entire global economy operates as a massive energy extraction and redistribution system, where human life force, creativity, and productive capacity are harvested and channeled towards specific focal points. Money itself serves as a form of crystallized energy that allows this life force to be stored, transferred, and accumulated by those who control the monetary system. Understanding these patterns, recognizing these influences, and awakening to the true nature of the systems that surround us represents the first step toward reclaiming individual sovereignty and spiritual freedom. The knowledge exists, the tools are available, and the opportunity for awakening has never been greater. But it requires courage, discernment, and the willingness to see beyond the comfortable illusions that keep most people trapped in unconscious compliance. The choice, as always, remains yours. You can continue to operate within these systems unconsciously, allowing your energy and consciousness to be harvested and directed by others. Or you can awaken to the true nature of reality, reclaim your spiritual power, and begin to create the kind of world that serves consciousness rather than controlling it. The ancient art of manifestation isn't just about positive thinking or wishful dreams floating aimlessly through the cosmos. What we discovered in our previous revelations barely scratches the surface of how occult practitioners have weaponized the very mechanics of reality creation itself. Tonight we dive deeper into territories that most dare not explore, where thought becomes form, and where intention shapes the physical world around us. You see, manifestation operates on frequencies that most humans never learn to access. The elite understand that consciousness isn't trapped inside your skull like modern science wants you to believe. Consciousness is the fabric of reality itself, and when you know how to manipulate that fabric, you can literally bend existence to your will. This isn't metaphysical nonsense. This is ancient technology that's been hidden from the masses for centuries. The Hermetic principle of mentalism states that all is mind, and mind is all. But here's what they don't tell you in those watered-down spiritual books filling the shelves today. The mind they're referring to isn't your individual thoughts bouncing around in your head. They're talking about the universal mind, the collective consciousness field that connects every living being on this planet. And certain bloodlines, certain secret societies, they've maintained the knowledge of how to hack into this field and program it like a cosmic computer. Look at the meditation practices being pushed in mainstream wellness culture today. Mindfulness apps, guided visualizations, breathing exercises designed to quiet your mind. They tell you this is for relaxation, for stress relief, for finding inner peace. But what they're really doing is training you to enter specific brainwave states where your consciousness becomes more malleable, more susceptible to external programming. When millions of people meditate simultaneously using the same techniques, the same guided scripts, they're unknowingly creating a collective trance state that can be directed and manipulated by those who understand the deeper mechanics. The global meditation movement isn't organic. It's been carefully orchestrated and funded by organizations with connections to intelligence agencies and occult research programs. They've studied how consciousness operates, how thoughts propagate through the morphic field, how collective belief systems literally reshape physical reality. And they've packaged this knowledge into seemingly innocent spiritual practices that actually serve their agenda. Consider the phenomenon of synchronized global meditations that happen during significant celestial events. Solar eclipses, lunar alignments, planetary conjunctions. These aren't random feel-good gatherings of spiritual seekers. These are precisely timed consciousness manipulation events designed to harness the collective mental energy of millions of participants and direct it towards specific outcomes. The participants think they're sending love and light to heal the world, but their focused intention is being harvested and redirected by practitioners who understand the true mechanics of manifestation. The visualization techniques taught in these sessions follow very specific patterns: sacred geometry, color sequences, archetypal imagery that bypasses the conscious mind, and speaks directly to the subconscious. These aren't arbitrary choices. They're based on decades of research into how symbols and imagery affect human consciousness at the deepest levels. The mandala patterns, the golden spirals, the chakra color progressions, all of this has been reverse engineered from ancient mystery school teachings and repackaged for mass consumption. But here's where it gets truly sinister. The law of attraction movement that exploded across the world in recent decades wasn't a grassroots spiritual awakening. It was a psychological operation designed to redirect human creative energy away from collective action and toward individual material desires. Instead of people coming together to challenge corrupt systems, they were taught to focus on manifesting personal wealth, perfect relationships, dream cars, and houses. Their powerful creative energy was channeled into maintaining the very consumer culture that keeps them enslaved. The secret is that manifestation absolutely works, but it works on principles that most people never learn. Emotion is the fuel, visualization is the blueprint. But repetition and conviction are what actually lock the manifestation into physical reality. The elite know this, which is why they've created entire industries designed to keep people manifesting from a place of lack, fear, and desperation, rather than abundance and genuine power. Think about the language used in mainstream manifestation teachings. They tell you to visualize what you want as if you already have it, to feel the emotions of success before it arrives, to repeat affirmations until they become belief. But they never explain the energetic mechanics behind why this actually works. They never teach you about the holographic nature of reality, about how consciousness creates interference patterns that solidify into physical matter, about how your emotional state literally broadcasts signals into the quantum field that attract matching frequencies. The missing piece they deliberately withhold is the understanding of shadow work and energetic clearing. You can visualize and affirm all you want, but if you're carrying subconscious programming that contradicts your conscious desires, those deeper patterns will always override your surface-level intentions. The elite know this, which is why they've filled mainstream manifestation teachings with techniques that actually reinforce limiting beliefs, rather than clearing them. They teach you to want things you don't actually need, to chase external validation, to measure success by material accumulation. This keeps you trapped in a cycle of endless desire, where you're always manifesting from a place of emptiness rather than wholeness. Your creative energy gets channeled into feeding the very systems designed to keep you powerless while you remain convinced that you're practicing spiritual empowerment. The real manifestation teachings, the ones guarded by mystery schools and secret societies, operate on entirely different principles. They teach that you don't manifest what you want, you manifest what you are. Your being state, your core identity, your deepest beliefs about yourself and reality, these are what actually create your external experience. Change your being, and your having automatically follows. But changing your being requires confronting the programming that's been installed in your psyche since birth. The cultural conditioning, the religious indoctrination, the educational brainwashing, the media manipulation. All of these systems are designed to keep you identified with a small, limited version of yourself that believes it needs external permission to create and external resources to manifest. The occult practitioners who really understand manifestation know that consciousness itself is the only true resource. Everything else is just consciousness appearing in different forms. Money is consciousness, relationships are consciousness, health is consciousness, success is consciousness. Once you realize this at the deepest level, you stop trying to manipulate external circumstances and start working directly with the source code of reality itself. This is why they guard these teachings so carefully. This is why the real knowledge is hidden behind layers of symbolism and initiation. This is why the mainstream gets watered-down versions that actually disempower rather than liberate. Because once enough people understand how consciousness really works, once enough people learn to manifest from their true power rather than their programmed limitations, the entire control system would collapse overnight. The hypnotic techniques embedded in modern media, the subliminal programming in advertisements, the frequency manipulation through music and entertainment, all of this is designed to keep your consciousness operating at lower vibrational states where you're more susceptible to external influence and less capable of accessing your natural manifestation abilities. They need you believing that you're a powerless victim of circumstances, rather than the conscious creator of your reality. But the awakening is happening anyway. More people are discovering the deeper principles, learning to see through the deceptions, recognizing their true creative power. This terrifies those who profit from human limitation because they know that conscious, empowered humans are impossible to control. Their entire system depends on keeping people unconscious of their divine nature and creative potential. The next phase of human evolution isn't technological, it's consciousness-based. We're moving into an era where the principles of manifestation become common knowledge, where people understand their role as co-creators of reality, where the artificial scarcity and limitation that's been imposed on humanity finally dissolves. But this transition threatens every existing power structure, which is why the resistance to this awakening is so fierce. Understanding manifestation at its deepest level means understanding that you're not a separate individual trying to get things from an external world. You're an expression of the same consciousness that creates everything. And learning to manifest is really about remembering how to consciously participate in the ongoing creation of reality itself. This isn't just personal empowerment, it's species-level transformation that changes everything about how human civilization operates. The occult knowledge of manifestation has been used to create the world we see around us, with all its inequality, suffering, and limitation. But that same knowledge, when understood and applied by conscious humans working together, has the power to create something entirely different. The phenomenon of consciousness control runs far deeper than most people realize. While many awakening individuals have begun to recognize the surface layers of manipulation, the true architects of reality distortion operate through mechanisms that remain largely invisible to the untrained eye. These forces understand that the most effective control comes not from external coercion, but from the systematic programming of human perception itself. Consider how your thoughts arise each morning. Do they emerge organically from your own consciousness, or have they been carefully cultivated through years of exposure to specific frequencies, symbols, and subliminal messaging? The entities that have mastered consciousness manipulation know that the battlefield for human souls exists primarily in the realm of thought and emotion. They have spent centuries perfecting techniques that make their victims believe they are thinking their own thoughts, while actually operating as unconscious agents of a larger agenda. The ancient mystery schools understood that consciousness is the fundamental building block of reality itself. What modern science calls quantum mechanics, these initiates knew as the malleable nature of existence. They discovered that focused intention, combined with specific ritual practices, could literally reshape the fabric of reality. This knowledge was never meant to remain hidden, but was systematically suppressed and corrupted by those who sought to monopolize its power. Today, this same knowledge operates through technological amplification. The devices that surround you are not merely tools for communication or entertainment. They function as consciousness modification devices, emitting frequencies that entrain your brainwaves to specific patterns. Your smartphone, television, computer, and even your smart home devices create an electromagnetic field that influences your thoughts, emotions, and decision-making processes. The content you consume through these devices is carefully crafted using psychological techniques derived from decades of research into human behavioral modification. The entertainment industry serves as perhaps the most sophisticated consciousness programming operation ever devised. Every movie, television show, song, and video game is embedded with symbolic content designed to shape your beliefs about reality. These symbols bypass your conscious mind and speak directly to your subconscious, gradually altering your fundamental assumptions about what is possible, what is normal, and what is desirable. The heroes and villains you are taught to admire or despise are carefully chosen to direct your emotional energy toward specific outcomes. Music represents one of the most powerful consciousness manipulation tools available. Certain frequencies can induce states of depression, anxiety, or aggression, while others can promote healing, clarity, and spiritual awakening. The music industry has been weaponized to broadcast frequencies that keep the population in a state of emotional dysfunction. The lyrics themselves often contain subliminal messages and neuro-linguistic programming designed to normalize destructive behaviors and belief systems. Social media platforms function as massive psychological operations designed to harvest your attention, emotions, and personal data while simultaneously programming your responses to social and political issues. The algorithms that determine what content you see are not neutral. They are specifically designed to create division, outrage, and emotional instability. Your feed is curated to keep you in a state of perpetual reaction, preventing you from accessing the calm, centered awareness necessary for genuine spiritual development. The educational system serves as the primary indoctrination mechanism for consciousness control. From the earliest ages, children are taught to accept authority without question, to value conformity over creativity, and to believe that their worth is determined by external validation. The subjects taught in school are carefully selected to create specific types of thinking patterns. Mathematics is taught in ways that promote linear, logical thinking, while suppressing intuitive and creative faculties. History is presented as a series of random events, rather than revealing the patterns of manipulation that have shaped human civilization. Religious institutions, while originally designed to connect humanity with divine consciousness, have been infiltrated and corrupted to serve as control mechanisms. The true spiritual teachings have been hidden or distorted, replaced with doctrines that promote fear, guilt, and dependence on external authority. Many religious practices actually serve to drain spiritual energy from practitioners and redirect it toward entities that feed on human emotional output. The medical system operates as a consciousness suppression mechanism disguised as healthcare. Pharmaceutical drugs are designed not just to treat physical symptoms, but to alter brain chemistry in ways that suppress psychic abilities and spiritual awareness. Many commonly prescribed medications interfere with the pineal gland, which serves as the primary interface between physical and spiritual consciousness. Vaccines contain not only biological agents, but also nanotechnology designed to create a direct interface between human consciousness and external control systems. The financial system itself functions as a massive consciousness control mechanism. The artificial scarcity created by debt-based economics keeps the majority of humanity trapped in survival mode, unable to access higher states of consciousness that would reveal the illusory nature of the control system. Money itself serves as a tool for consciousness manipulation, creating the illusion that human worth can be quantified and that cooperation must be mediated through artificial exchange systems. Weather modification technology represents one of the most advanced consciousness control mechanisms currently in operation. The ability to create specific weather patterns allows for the manipulation of large populations through environmental stress. Droughts, floods, and extreme weather events are often artificially created to destabilize regions and justify the implementation of authoritarian control measures. The electromagnetic fields generated by weather modification technology also directly influence human consciousness, creating states of anxiety, depression, or docility as needed. Food production has been weaponized as a consciousness control mechanism. Genetically modified organisms are designed not just to create dependency on agricultural corporations, but to alter human DNA in ways that make individuals more susceptible to external control. Processed foods contain chemicals that interfere with neurotransmitter production, creating addictive behaviors and emotional instability. Fluoride in water supplies calcifies the pineal gland, reducing psychic sensitivity and spiritual awareness. The true nature of consciousness itself has been hidden from humanity. You are not merely a physical body with a brain that generates thoughts. You are an infinite spiritual being having a temporary physical experience. Your consciousness extends far beyond the boundaries of your physical form and has the ability to directly influence reality through focused intention. The control system depends on keeping you ignorant of your true power and potential. Meditation, when practiced correctly, serves as a direct threat to consciousness control systems. Through genuine meditative practice, individuals can learn to observe their thoughts without being controlled by them, recognize the difference between their authentic inner voice and externally programmed responses, and develop the ability to consciously direct their attention and intention. This is why many popular meditation techniques have been corrupted to serve as subtle forms of mind control rather than genuine consciousness expansion. Dreams represent another battlefield for consciousness control. During sleep, your conscious defenses are lowered, making you susceptible to external programming through dream manipulation. Advanced technologies exist that can broadcast specific dream content to individuals or entire populations. Many nightmares and disturbing dreams are not natural phenomena, but artificially induced experiences designed to create trauma and emotional instability. The architecture of modern cities is designed according to occult principles that influence consciousness. The placement of buildings, the design of street layouts, and the positioning of monuments all follow specific geometric patterns that channel and direct human energy in predetermined ways. Skyscrapers function as massive antenna arrays that can broadcast consciousness-altering frequencies across urban populations. The concrete and steel construction of modern buildings creates electromagnetic fields that interfere with natural human biorhythms. Time itself has been weaponized as a consciousness control mechanism. The artificial division of time into rigid schedules and the acceleration of daily life prevent individuals from accessing the natural rhythms that would allow for deeper spiritual development. The constant pressure to be productive and efficient keeps consciousness trapped in surface-level awareness, unable to access the deeper states necessary for genuine self-realization. The concept of individualism, while appearing to promote freedom, actually serves as a consciousness control mechanism by isolating individuals from the collective awareness that would reveal the true nature of reality. By convincing people that they are separate, disconnected entities competing for limited resources, the control system prevents the formation of the unified consciousness that would naturally arise if humanity recognized its fundamental interconnectedness. Language itself has been systematically corrupted to serve consciousness control purposes. Words carry vibrational frequencies that influence thought patterns and emotional states. The gradual degradation of language, the introduction of crude and vulgar expressions into common usage, and the elimination of words that describe higher spiritual concepts all serve to limit the range of thoughts and experiences available to human consciousness. The legal system operates as a consciousness control mechanism by creating the illusion that human beings are property of the state rather than sovereign spiritual entities. The use of all capital letters in legal documents, the creation of legal fictions through birth certificates, and the establishment of maritime law on land all serve to trap individuals in artificial legal constructs that deny their natural rights and spiritual nature. Sexual energy represents one of the most powerful forces for consciousness expansion, which is why it has been systematically corrupted and weaponized by control systems. The pornography industry serves to drain and misdirect sexual energy while programming individuals with dysfunctional relationship patterns. The promotion of sexual dysfunction and the medicalization of natural sexual processes all serve to prevent individuals from accessing the consciousness-expanding potential of properly channeled sexual energy. The pharmaceutical industry has developed drugs specifically designed to interfere with spiritual experiences and consciousness expansion. Many psychiatric medications are targeted at suppressing the exact brain functions that would allow individuals to perceive beyond the limitations of ordinary consciousness. The pathologization of spiritual experiences as mental illness serves to discourage individuals from exploring non-ordinary states of consciousness that might reveal the illusory nature of consensus reality. Sleep deprivation has become a widespread consciousness control mechanism in modern society. The constant stimulation from electronic devices, artificial lighting, and the demands of accelerated living prevent individuals from accessing the deep sleep states necessary for consciousness integration and spiritual development. Chronic sleep deprivation makes individuals more susceptible to external programming and less capable of independent thought. The suppression of plant medicines and natural consciousness expanding substances serves to prevent individuals from accessing states of awareness that would reveal the artificial nature of consensus reality. These substances, used safely within appropriate contexts, can provide direct experiential knowledge of the interconnected nature of consciousness and the malleable quality of perceived reality. Their criminalization serves to maintain the ignorance necessary for consciousness control systems to function effectively. The true purpose of human existence has been systematically hidden from the population. Humanity is not meant to serve as an unconscious workforce for invisible masters. Each individual contains the potential for unlimited consciousness expansion and reality creation. The awakening process involves recognizing these control mechanisms. reclaiming your natural spiritual abilities and taking conscious responsibility for your role in creating the reality you experience. The time has come for humanity to reclaim its birthright as conscious creators of reality. The control systems that have dominated human experience for millennia are now being exposed and dismantled by those who have awakened to their true nature. The deeper truth that most refuse to acknowledge is that our entire reality operates on frequencies and vibrations, with consciousness itself being the primary force that shapes what we perceive as the physical world. This fundamental principle has been deliberately hidden from humanity because once you understand that reality is malleable and responsive to focused intention, you become impossible to control through traditional means. Ancient civilizations understood this cosmic law intimately. The builders of the pyramids, the architects of Stonehenge, and the creators of megalithic structures worldwide weren't using primitive tools and brute force. They were manipulating matter at the quantum level through sound frequencies, geometric harmonics, and collective consciousness. The massive stones weren't lifted by ramps and pulleys, but through acoustic levitation and vibrational resonance. This technology has been systematically erased from mainstream history because it would shatter the illusion that we are powerless beings dependent on external systems. The human body itself is a sophisticated bioelectromagnetic instrument capable of transmitting and receiving frequencies across multiple dimensions. Your DNA functions as both an antenna and a transmitter, constantly exchanging information with the quantum field around you. This is why certain bloodlines have been carefully preserved and monitored throughout history. They carry specific genetic markers that allow for enhanced psychic abilities, interdimensional communication, and reality manipulation. The ruling bloodlines aren't just maintaining power through conventional means, but through their inherited capacity to interface directly with the fabric of reality itself. Every major city has been constructed according to precise geometric patterns that create standing wave formations in the Earth's magnetic field. These urban layouts aren't random, but are designed to generate specific frequency signatures that influence human consciousness on a mass scale. The street grids, the placement of monuments, and even the heights of buildings all contribute to a vast electromagnetic web that can either suppress or enhance human potential, depending on the intended purpose. The global financial system operates as more than just an economic control mechanism. It functions as a massive energy harvesting network that channels human creative force through ritualized transactions and debt obligations. Every contract you sign, every loan you take, and every purchase you make creates energetic bonds that extend far beyond the physical exchange of money. These contractual agreements operate in multiple dimensions simultaneously, binding not just your material assets, but your spiritual essence to the system itself. Modern technology has been designed to disrupt your natural electromagnetic field and disconnect you from your innate psychic abilities. The proliferation of wireless signals, cellular towers, and smart devices creates a constant barrage of artificial frequencies that interfere with your pineal gland's ability to perceive beyond the five senses. This technological assault isn't accidental, but represents a coordinated effort to maintain humanity in a state of spiritual blindness and energetic dependency. The pharmaceutical industry serves a dual purpose beyond mere profit generation. Certain medications are specifically formulated to calcify the pineal gland and suppress the production of dimethyltryptamine, the naturally occurring compound that facilitates expanded consciousness and interdimensional perception. Fluoride in the water supply, aluminum in vaccines, and synthetic chemicals in processed foods all contribute to the systematic dumbing down of human consciousness and the severing of our connection to higher realms of awareness. Religious institutions have been infiltrated and corrupted to serve as spiritual prisons rather than gateways to enlightenment. The true teachings of Christ, Buddha, and other enlightened masters have been deliberately distorted to promote dependency, guilt, and external salvation, rather than the recognition of divine power within each individual. The concept of original sin, the fear of divine judgment, and the worship of external deities all serve to redirect spiritual energy away from personal empowerment and toward hierarchical control structures. The entertainment industry functions as a massive mind control operation that implants specific thought patterns emotional responses, and behavioral programs into the collective unconscious. Movies, television shows, and music aren't just entertainment, but sophisticated psychological warfare designed to normalize certain realities and make others seem impossible or undesirable. The heroes and villains, the storylines, and even the visual imagery all work together to shape your perception of what's possible and what you should fear or desire. Educational systems have been structured to produce compliant workers, rather than independent thinkers, capable of questioning the nature of reality itself. The compartmentalization of knowledge, the emphasis on memorization over understanding, and the suppression of creative thinking all serve to maintain humanity in a state of intellectual and spiritual immaturity. True education would teach you about your own consciousness, your connection to the quantum field, and your ability to influence reality through focused intention. The medical establishment has deliberately suppressed healing modalities that would eliminate the need for their services. Sound healing, light therapy, crystal resonance, and energy work have all been marginalized or outlawed because they address the root causes of illness, rather than merely treating symptoms. Your body has an innate ability to heal itself when provided with the proper frequencies and energetic support. But this knowledge has been hidden to maintain dependency on pharmaceutical interventions and surgical procedures. Weather modification technology has been operational for decades, allowing for the artificial creation of storms, droughts, and other natural disasters. These capabilities aren't used for benevolent purposes, but to maintain geopolitical control, manipulate agricultural production, and create crisis situations that justify increased governmental power. The ionospheric heaters scattered across the globe can generate electromagnetic pulses that disrupt weather patterns, trigger seismic activity, and even influence human consciousness on a regional scale. The space program serves as both a cover story and a resource acquisition operation for technologies and materials that exist beyond Earth's atmosphere. The narrative of space exploration masks the reality that contact with non-terrestrial intelligences has been ongoing for millennia, and that certain factions have access to technologies that would revolutionize human civilization if released publicly. The suppression of these technologies maintains scarcity economics and prevents humanity from achieving true freedom and abundance. Social media platforms have been designed as data harvesting systems that map human consciousness and predict collective behavior patterns. Every click, every like, and every comment contributes to a vast artificial intelligence network that can influence thoughts, emotions, and decisions on both individual and mass scales. These platforms aren't neutral communication tools, but sophisticated manipulation systems that can trigger specific responses and guide public opinion in predetermined directions. The banking system operates according to principles of energy extraction that extend beyond mere financial profit. Interest payments, loan structures, and credit systems all function as mechanisms for harvesting human life force energy and channeling it toward specific entities and agendas. The debt-based monetary system ensures that humanity remains in perpetual servitude, while their creative energy is siphoned off to fuel projects and purposes that remain hidden from public awareness. Food production has been deliberately corrupted to weaken human vitality and spiritual perception. Genetically modified organisms, synthetic pesticides, and artificial additives all contribute to the degradation of human consciousness and the suppression of psychic abilities. The shift away from natural, locally grown foods toward processed, industrialized products represents a coordinated assault on human health and spiritual development. Transportation systems have been designed to maintain separation and isolation, rather than promoting genuine connection and community. The emphasis on individual vehicle ownership, the destruction of walkable neighborhoods, and the suppression of efficient public transit all serve to fragment human society and prevent the formation of cohesive communities that might challenge existing power structures. But here's what they don't want you to realize about all of these systems and the consciousness that created them. Once you understand that reality is fundamentally composed of information and energy rather than solid matter, you begin to recognize your own power as a conscious being to influence and reshape the world around you. Your thoughts, emotions, and intentions aren't just internal experiences, but creative forces that interact with the quantum field to manifest physical reality. The key to breaking free from these control systems lies not in fighting against them directly, but in raising your own frequency and consciousness to a level where they simply cannot affect you. When you align with your authentic nature as a divine being, having a human experience, you naturally begin to perceive beyond the illusions and limitations that have been imposed upon humanity. The deeper you dig into these mechanisms of control, the more you realize that what we've uncovered so far is merely the surface layer of a vast underground network of manipulation. The true architects of this system understand something that most people never even consider. Consciousness itself is programmable, and they've spent centuries perfecting the code. Think about it. Every single day, billions of people willingly plug themselves into devices that emit specific frequencies directly into their brains. Your smartphone isn't just a communication tool, it's a consciousness modification device. The screens you stare at for hours emit blue light wavelengths that disrupt your natural circadian rhythms. But that's just the beginning. These devices pulse at frequencies that synchronize with your brainwaves, gradually entraining your mental patterns to match predetermined templates. The occult practitioners who designed these systems knew that human consciousness operates like a radio receiver. Change the frequency, and you change what the person receives. This is why social media algorithms aren't random. They're ritualistic programming sequences designed to create specific emotional states at precise intervals. The endless scroll isn't addictive by accident. It's a digital prayer wheel, a technological rosary that keeps your mind locked in repetitive patterns, while subliminal programming seeps into your subconscious. But the technological manipulation goes far deeper than most people imagine. Every major tech corporation has teams of neuroscientists, behavioral psychologists, and yes, practitioners of ancient mind control techniques working together to perfect what they call user engagement. What they're really perfecting is consciousness hijacking. The notifications, the colors, the sounds, the timing of everything you experience on these platforms has been calibrated using principles that trace back to mystery schools of ancient Egypt and Babylon. Consider the architecture of our cities and how it affects human consciousness. Urban planners don't just design for efficiency, they design for psychological impact. The grid systems, the heights of buildings, the placement of monuments and public spaces, all of this follows sacred geometric principles that influence how energy flows through human populations. Modern cities are essentially massive ritual spaces designed to channel human consciousness in specific directions. The financial district of any major city isn't just where money changes hands, it's where human life force energy gets harvested and redirected. The towering glass and steel structures function as giant antennas, collecting and transmitting energetic frequencies that keep populations in states of anxiety, competition, and material obsession. The timing of market openings and closings corresponds to ancient astrological principles that maximize the extraction of emotional energy from traders and investors. Look at how transportation systems are designed. Subway systems don't just move people, they move energy. The underground tunnel networks in major cities often follow ley line patterns, creating energetic superhighways that can be used to influence the consciousness of millions of commuters simultaneously. The repetitive nature of daily commuting creates a hypnotic state that makes people more susceptible to mental programming. Educational institutions serve as processing centers for young minds, but not in the way most parents believe. The rigid structure of traditional schooling isn't designed to create critical thinkers. It's designed to create compliant workers who respond predictably to authority. The bell system that governs school schedules was borrowed directly from factory models, which themselves were based on monastic discipline systems designed to break individual will and create collective compliance. The subjects taught in schools are carefully curated to provide just enough knowledge to create functional workers, while withholding the deeper understanding that would allow students to see through the control systems. Mathematics is taught as abstract concepts rather than as the language of natural law. History is presented as disconnected events rather than as the unfolding of long-term occult agendas. Science is compartmentalized so that students never see the unified field theories that would reveal the true nature of reality. The entertainment industry functions as the primary vehicle for mass consciousness programming. Movies, television shows, music, and games aren't just entertainment, They're elaborate rituals performed on a global scale. The stories being told shape how people understand reality, relationships, morality, and their own potential. The heroes and villains presented in popular media create templates that people unconsciously adopt in their own lives. The timing of entertainment releases follows occult calendar systems, with major blockbuster movies and television premieres strategically scheduled to coincide with astrological events and ancient festival dates. This isn't coincidence, it's calculated manipulation designed to amplify the psychological impact of the programming being delivered. Music has perhaps the most direct impact on human consciousness because sound waves literally alter brainwave patterns. The shift from natural tuning systems to artificial frequencies like 440 Hz wasn't random. It was implemented to create subtle discord in human consciousness. Ancient cultures understood that certain frequencies could heal, inspire, or manipulate, and modern music production deliberately uses these principles to influence behavior and emotion. The fashion industry serves as another vector for consciousness control through the manipulation of personal identity and self-expression. Trends aren't organic developments, they're manufactured psychological operations designed to keep people focused on external validation and material consumption. The colors, shapes, and styles promoted each season follow esoteric principles designed to influence mood, behavior, and social dynamics. Even the food system has been weaponized against human consciousness. Processed foods contain additives that affect neurotransmitter production, creating dependencies and altering mental clarity. The industrial agriculture system has stripped foods of their natural vitality while adding substances that interfere with intuitive abilities and spiritual awareness. The timing and marketing of food trends follow patterns designed to keep populations in specific energetic states. The healthcare system maintains control by keeping people focused on symptoms rather than root causes, treating the body as a machine rather than recognizing it as an energetic system connected to consciousness. Pharmaceutical interventions often suppress the very symptoms that would naturally lead people toward greater self-awareness and spiritual awakening. The mental health system particularly serves to pathologize any deviation from programmed normalcy. Religious institutions, rather than fostering genuine spiritual connection, have been largely co-opted to serve as control systems that channel spiritual energy toward predetermined outcomes. The rituals, architecture, and hierarchical structures of organized religions often mirror ancient control systems designed for energy harvesting rather than spiritual liberation. The news media creates a shared hypnotic trance through the repetition of fear-based narratives and manufactured crises. The 24-hour news cycle keeps populations in a constant state of anxiety and external focus, preventing the inner reflection that might lead to greater awareness of these manipulation systems. The emotional states generated by news consumption create energetic harvests that feed the very systems being protected from exposure. Social media platforms function as massive data collection and behavior modification systems, gathering detailed psychological profiles that allow for individualized manipulation strategies. The artificial intelligence systems running these platforms don't just predict behavior, they shape behavior through carefully calibrated feedback loops that gradually modify thoughts, emotions, and actions. But here's what they don't want you to understand. Consciousness cannot ultimately be controlled because consciousness is the fundamental creative force of reality itself. Every system of control depends on your unconscious participation. The moment you become truly aware of these mechanisms, you begin to withdraw your consent and reclaim your creative power. The path to freedom begins with recognizing that you are not a victim of these systems. You are the consciousness that these systems are trying to capture and direct. Your awareness, your attention, your emotional energy, these are the most valuable resources on Earth, and they belong to you. When you stop unconsciously feeding these systems and start consciously directing your own consciousness, you become a force for liberation rather than control. This is why they work so hard to keep you distracted, divided, and dependent. They know that awakened consciousness is their greatest threat. Every moment you spend in fear, anger, or despair is energy they can harvest. Every moment you spend in love, creativity, or genuine connection is energy that serves life rather than control systems. The ultimate secret they're trying to hide is that reality itself is consciousness, expressing itself through infinite forms, and you are not separate from that consciousness. You are that consciousness, temporarily focused through the lens of individual experience, but never separate from the whole. The deeper you dive into the occult reality that surrounds us, the more you realize that everything we've discussed so far is just the surface layer. The real power, the real manipulation, the real control mechanisms operate on frequencies and dimensions that most people can't even perceive. And that's exactly how they want it. You see, consciousness itself is the ultimate battleground. Every single technique, every symbol, every frequency we've explored, they're all designed to hijack your consciousness and redirect it towards serving their agenda. But here's what they don't want you to understand. Consciousness is also your greatest weapon. It's the one thing they can never fully control, no matter how sophisticated their systems become. The ancient mystery schools understood something profound about reality that modern science is only beginning to rediscover. Reality isn't fixed, it's malleable. It responds to consciousness, to intention, to focused will. The universe operates on vibrational frequencies, and whoever controls those frequencies controls the reality that most people experience. This is why they've invested so heavily in frequency manipulation through technology, media, architecture, and even the food supply. Think about it. Why do you think they're so obsessed with keeping you in lower vibrational states? Fear, anger, depression, confusion. These aren't just unfortunate side effects of modern life. They're deliberately cultivated emotional states that make you more susceptible to control and less capable of accessing your true creative power. When you're operating from these lower frequencies, you become a passive receiver rather than an active creator of reality. The pharmaceutical industry plays a crucial role in this consciousness suppression system. Fluoride in the water supply isn't just about dental health. It calcifies the pineal gland, often called the third eye, which is your biological antenna for higher consciousness states. Antidepressants don't just numb emotional pain, they flatten your entire emotional spectrum, making it nearly impossible to experience the full range of human consciousness that's necessary for spiritual awakening. Even our education system is designed to suppress consciousness expansion. They teach you to memorize and regurgitate information, never to question fundamental assumptions about reality. They teach you that consciousness emerges from matter, when the truth is exactly the opposite. Matter emerges from consciousness. They teach you that you're separate from everyone and everything else, when the reality is that we're all interconnected aspects of a unified field of consciousness. The occult elite understand these principles intimately. They know that reality is consensus-based, that it's shaped by collective belief and expectation. This is why they work so hard to control the narrative, to shape public opinion, to manufacture consent. They're literally programming the collective consciousness to create the reality they want to inhabit. Every movie, every news story, every social media trend is carefully crafted to reinforce their desired version of reality. But here's where it gets really interesting. The same principles they use to control consciousness can be used to liberate it. The same understanding of reality creation that they've monopolized for centuries is actually your birthright as a conscious being. You have the power to reshape reality through focused intention, elevated emotion, and alignment with higher frequencies. This is why meditation and other consciousness-expanding practices have been systematically marginalized or commercialized beyond recognition. True meditation isn't about relaxation or stress relief. It's about accessing higher states of consciousness where you can perceive reality as it actually is, not as you've been programmed to see it. It's about reconnecting with your innate creative power and learning to use it consciously. The occult symbolism we see everywhere isn't just for show, it's functional. Symbols are consciousness programming tools. They bypass the rational mind and speak directly to the subconscious, planting seeds of belief and expectation that shape your perception of reality. But once you understand how this works, you can begin to create your own symbols, your own rituals, your own reality programming. Sacred geometry isn't just pretty patterns, it's the underlying mathematical structure of consciousness itself. The golden ratio, the flower of life, the Fibonacci sequence, these patterns appear everywhere in nature because they're literally the source code of reality. The elite have used this knowledge to design buildings, logos, and layouts that influence consciousness in specific ways. But you can use the same knowledge to create environments that support your own consciousness expansion. The manipulation of time and space through architecture and urban planning isn't accidental. They understand that physical space affects consciousness, that certain geometries and proportions can either expand or contract awareness. This is why ancient temples were built according to specific sacred geometric principles. They were designed to facilitate altered states of consciousness and spiritual experiences. Even the way they've structured our calendar and timekeeping systems is designed to disconnect us from natural rhythms and cycles. The Gregorian calendar replaced lunar-based systems that kept humans synchronized with natural energetic cycles. Our modern time obsession keeps us trapped in linear thinking when consciousness actually operates in cyclical, spiraling patterns. The financial system we've discussed isn't just about economic control, it's about consciousness control. Money is a form of crystallized attention and energy. By controlling the flow of money, they control where people focus their attention and energy. The debt-based system ensures that most people spend their lives focused on survival rather than consciousness expansion and creative expression. But here's what they fear most: awakened individuals who understand these principles and begin to use them consciously. When you start to take responsibility for your own consciousness, when you begin to question the reality you've been sold, when you start experimenting with your own creative power, that's when you become a threat to their system of control. This is why the awakening process often feels so chaotic and disorienting. You're literally deconstructing one reality and constructing another. Your consciousness is expanding beyond the narrow bandwidth they've tried to confine it to. You're remembering abilities and potentials that you've been taught don't exist. The key is understanding that consciousness is not produced by the brain. The brain is a receiver and transmitter of consciousness. You are not your thoughts, you are not your emotions, you are not your physical body. You are the conscious awareness that experiences these things. Once you really grasp this, everything changes. You realize that you have the power to tune into different frequencies of consciousness, to access different levels of reality, to literally reshape your experience through focused intention. The occult elite have hidden this knowledge behind layers of symbolism, ritual, and secrecy, not because they're evil masterminds, but because they understand that consciousness is the ultimate creative force in the universe. They've used this knowledge to shape reality according to their vision, their values, their desired outcomes. But this same power belongs to every conscious being. The real secret, the one they've worked so hard to hide, is that reality is a collaborative creation. We're all participating in it, whether we realize it or not. The difference is whether you're participating consciously or unconsciously, whether you're creating by design or by default. When you begin to participate consciously, when you start to align your thoughts, emotions, and actions with your highest vision, you become a force for positive transformation in the world. This is the ultimate revelation, that the power to change reality has never been in their hands alone. It's always been in ours. They've simply convinced us that we don't have it, that we're powerless, that we're separate from the creative force of the universe. But once you see through that illusion, once you reclaim your birthright as a conscious creator, everything becomes possible. The threads of reality become thinner as we reach the deeper mysteries, and what you're about to discover will shake the very foundation of how you perceive existence itself. We've explored how the occult elite manipulate your external world, but now we venture into something far more sinister: the systematic hijacking of your consciousness during its most vulnerable state. Sleep, that seemingly innocent daily ritual, represents the ultimate gateway for consciousness manipulation. While your rational mind rests, your subconscious becomes a wide-open portal. Defenseless against the sophisticated techniques deployed by those who understand the true mechanics of dream infiltration. This isn't some abstract theory. Major corporations, intelligence agencies, and occult practitioners have weaponized sleep technology to penetrate the deepest layers of your psyche. The sleep industry itself operates as a massive harvesting operation. Those white noise machines, sleep apps, and meditation recordings aren't just helping you rest. They're embedding specific frequencies designed to synchronize your brainwaves with predetermined patterns. Binaural beats, marketed as relaxation tools, actually function as consciousness programming devices. The specific frequency combinations can induce theta states where your mind becomes extraordinarily susceptible to suggestion and external influence. Smart mattresses and sleep tracking devices represent the next evolution of this manipulation. These systems monitor your REM cycles with precision, identifying the exact moments when your consciousness transitions between dimensions. During these liminal states, targeted electromagnetic pulses can introduce foreign thought patterns, artificial memories, and behavioral modifications that integrate seamlessly with your natural dream content. The pharmaceutical approach operates through an even more direct pathway. Sleep medications don't simply induce rest, they chemically alter your brain's natural protective barriers. Melatonin supplements, widely promoted as natural and harmless, often contain synthetic compounds that disrupt your pineal gland's organic production cycles. This artificial interference creates dependency while simultaneously weakening your psychic defenses against astral intrusion. Research facilities conducting sleep studies function as testing grounds for advanced consciousness manipulation techniques. Participants believe they're contributing to medical research, but many of these facilities operate under classified contracts with military and intelligence organizations. The data collected maps individual consciousness patterns, creating detailed profiles that can be exploited for targeted psychological operations. The architecture of modern bedrooms has been deliberately designed to amplify these vulnerabilities. Rectangular room layouts create standing wave patterns that resonate at frequencies known to induce specific mental states. The placement of electronic devices generates electromagnetic fields that interfere with your natural biorhythm cycles. Even the materials used in mattresses and bedding contain chemicals that off-gas compounds, affecting neurotransmitter production. Dream journals and lucid dreaming techniques, promoted in New Age circles, actually serve as consciousness mapping tools. When you record your dreams and practice lucid dreaming, you're essentially creating a detailed blueprint of your subconscious landscape. This information, when harvested through various digital platforms and apps, provides invaluable intelligence about your deepest fears, desires, and psychological triggers. The connection between sleep paralysis and occult practices runs deeper than most realize. Those terrifying episodes where you're conscious but unable to move aren't random neurological glitches. They represent moments when your consciousness exists simultaneously in multiple dimensions. Practitioners of dark arts have learned to exploit these states, using sleep paralysis as a doorway for spiritual intrusion and entity attachment. Night terrors and recurring nightmares often indicate active psychic interference. The repetitive nature of these experiences suggests external programming rather than natural psychological processing. Children are particularly vulnerable to this manipulation as their consciousness barriers haven't fully developed. The epidemic of childhood sleep disorders correlates directly with the proliferation of wireless technology and targeted consciousness programming. Sleep deprivation itself functions as a powerful control mechanism. The modern lifestyle's systematic disruption of natural sleep cycles creates a population of chronically exhausted individuals whose cognitive defenses are perpetually compromised. Exhausted minds are compliant minds, easily influenced by media programming and less capable of critical thinking or spiritual awareness. The occult significance of the number 8 hours of recommended sleep connects to ancient magical practices involving consciousness cycling. This duration aligns with specific astronomical and energetic patterns that facilitate the harvesting of dream energy. Your dreams aren't just mental processing, they generate actual psychic energy that can be collected and utilized by those who understand these mechanics. Sleep laboratories and research institutions often employ practitioners trained in remote viewing and consciousness infiltration techniques. While subjects sleep under observation, skilled operators can access their dream states, implant suggestions, extract information, and even conduct psychological experiments. The participants wake with no memory of these intrusions, but their behavior and thought patterns may be permanently altered. The promotion of communal sleeping arrangements in various cultural movements serves to amplify consciousness manipulation effects. When multiple individuals sleep in proximity, their brainwaves can synchronize, creating collective vulnerable states that are easier to access and influence than individual consciousness. Dormitories, barracks, and communal living spaces function as massive consciousness harvesting facilities. Temperature manipulation during sleep affects consciousness accessibility. The promotion of cooler sleeping environments isn't just about comfort. Specific temperature ranges facilitate deeper altered states where consciousness becomes more malleable. Smart thermostats and climate control systems can be programmed to create optimal conditions for consciousness intrusion without the sleeper's awareness. The timing of sleep cycles connects to broader occult calendars and energetic patterns. Certain lunar phases, planetary alignments, and seasonal transitions create windows of enhanced consciousness vulnerability. Those who understand these patterns can time their manipulation efforts for maximum effectiveness, coordinating sleep-based programming with larger ritual cycles and energetic workings. Audio programming during sleep operates below the threshold of conscious awareness, but penetrates directly into the subconscious mind. Subliminal messages embedded in sleep soundtracks, whether nature sounds, classical music, or white noise, can reprogram fundamental beliefs and behavioral patterns. The sleeping mind, lacking critical filters, accepts these suggestions as internal thoughts and integrates them into personal belief systems. But here's what they don't want you to discover. Your consciousness during sleep is also your greatest source of untapped power. The same vulnerability that makes you susceptible to manipulation can be transformed into a gateway for spiritual expansion and psychic development. When you reclaim control over your sleep environment and consciousness states, you access abilities that transcend ordinary human limitations. Natural sleep in darkness, without artificial electromagnetic interference, allows your pineal gland to produce authentic melatonin and DMT compounds that facilitate genuine spiritual experiences. These naturally occurring psychedelic states connect you to higher dimensions of consciousness, where you can receive authentic guidance, healing, and expanded awareness. The practice of conscious dreaming, when approached with proper protection and intention, becomes a powerful tool for reality manifestation and psychic development. Your dream states offer direct access to the quantum field, where thoughts instantly become energetic reality. Masters of consciousness manipulation understand this principle and use your dreams against you. But you can reclaim this power for your own spiritual evolution. Setting sacred boundaries around your sleep space creates an energetic sanctuary that repels unwanted influences while attracting beneficial spiritual experiences. Simple practices like blessing your bedroom, using protective crystals, and establishing clear intentions before sleep can transform your resting hours from vulnerability into empowerment. Understanding these hidden mechanisms of sleep manipulation is the first step toward reclaiming your consciousness sovereignty. Every night offers an opportunity to choose between unconscious vulnerability and conscious spiritual development. The same doorways they use to access your mind can become your pathways to expanded awareness and authentic spiritual power. Your dreams are not random neural firing. They are your consciousness exploring dimensions beyond physical reality. When you protect and direct these explorations consciously, you begin to access the same powers that the occult elite have hoarded for themselves. The deeper you dig into the fabric of reality, the more you realize that nothing is truly random. Every moment of your existence is being orchestrated by forces that understand the true nature of consciousness itself. The 26th secret reveals something that will shake you to your core. Your entire sense of self is nothing more than a carefully constructed illusion. Think about it for a moment. Who are you really? Strip away your name, your job, your relationships, your memories. What remains? Most people can't answer this question because they've been programmed to identify with everything except their true essence. This isn't an accident. This is the most sophisticated form of spiritual imprisonment ever devised. The ancient mystery schools understood that human consciousness is fundamentally unlimited. They knew that each person possesses divine creative power that can literally reshape reality. But here's what they also knew. If humanity ever discovered this truth collectively, the entire system of control would crumble overnight. So they created the ultimate prison, one that exists entirely within your own mind. Your ego, that voice in your head that narrates your life, isn't actually you. It's a sophisticated program designed to keep you trapped in a limited sense of identity. Every time you think, "I am this" or "I am that," you're reinforcing the walls of your own prison. The ego feeds on drama, conflict, and separation because these emotional states keep you disconnected from your true power. But the manipulation goes even deeper. The very language you use to think has been carefully crafted to limit your perception of reality. Words like impossible, realistic, and practical are linguistic chains that bind your creative potential. When you say something is impossible, you're not describing reality, you're creating it. Your subconscious mind accepts these limitations as absolute truth and manifests them in your experience. The 27th secret exposes how your emotional responses are being weaponized against you. Fear, anger, shame, and guilt aren't just feelings. They're specific frequencies that disconnect you from higher states of consciousness. When you operate from these lower vibrations, you become susceptible to external manipulation and control. Notice how the media constantly bombards you with content designed to trigger these exact emotional states. Every news story, every advertisement, every form of entertainment is carefully crafted to keep you in a state of emotional reactivity. This isn't entertainment, it's consciousness programming. The more emotionally reactive you become, the more you identify with the ego program, and the further you drift from your authentic self. The controllers understand that humans are naturally telepathic, naturally intuitive, and naturally connected to universal consciousness. But these abilities only function when you're in a state of inner peace and emotional balance. By keeping you in constant emotional turmoil, they effectively shut down your psychic abilities and keep you dependent on their information systems. Here's where it gets truly sinister. The spiritual and self-help industries have been infiltrated and corrupted to serve the same agenda. They've taken genuine spiritual practices and twisted them into ego enhancement programs. Modern spirituality often teaches you to affirm positive thoughts or visualize your desires, but these practices still reinforce the illusion that you are separate from what you want to create. True spiritual awakening isn't about getting what you want. It's about realizing that the you that wants things is itself an illusion. When this recognition dawns, you discover that consciousness itself is the ground of all being. You don't have consciousness, you are consciousness, temporarily playing the role of a separate individual. The 28th secret reveals the ultimate purpose behind this grand deception. Earth is being used as a consciousness harvesting operation. Human emotions, particularly fear and suffering, generate a specific type of energy that feeds interdimensional entities. These beings don't exist in physical form, but they influence reality through consciousness manipulation. They've created a system where humans unknowingly generate the very energy that keeps them enslaved. Every time you feel fear, anger, or despair, you're literally feeding these entities. They've turned human consciousness into a renewable energy source, and most people never realize they're being farmed. But here's what they don't want you to know. You have the power to disconnect from this system entirely. The moment you stop identifying with the ego program, you stop generating the emotional energy they need. This is why true spiritual awakening is so rare, and why it's so threatening to the existing power structure. The path to freedom isn't found in fighting the system or trying to expose the truth to others. It's found in turning your attention inward and recognizing the awareness that observes all thoughts, emotions, and experiences. This awareness is who you truly are, pure consciousness, unlimited and eternal. When you rest in this awareness, something remarkable happens. The ego program begins to dissolve, and with it, all the limitations and suffering it created. You realize that you were never actually trapped. You were just hypnotized into believing you were separate from the infinite creative power of the universe. The 29th secret is the most liberating of all. Everything you've been taught about reality is backwards. You're not a small, separate being trying to survive in a hostile universe. You are the universe itself, experiencing reality through the lens of individualized consciousness. The entire cosmos exists within your awareness, not the other way around. This recognition changes everything. Instead of trying to manipulate external conditions to feel better, you realize that all experience arises within consciousness itself. You don't need to fix your life or improve yourself. You need to remember who you truly are. The final pieces of this puzzle will challenge everything you believe about existence itself. But if you've come this far, you're ready to discover the ultimate truth that lies beneath all the layers of deception and control. The rabbit hole goes deeper than you ever imagined, and at the bottom, you'll find something that will transform your understanding of reality forever. The game is almost over, but the real adventure is just beginning. Everything you thought you knew about yourself and the world is about to be turned upside down. Are you prepared to let go of everything you believe to be true? As we pull back the final veils of secrecy, we must confront the most sinister truth of all. That reality itself is not fixed, but rather a collective dream that can be manipulated and reshaped by those who understand the deepest occult principles. The ancients knew this. They understood that what we call the physical world is merely the densest layer of consciousness, and that beneath this surface lies an infinite ocean of malleable potential. The secret societies have spent centuries mapping this ocean. They've discovered that consciousness operates on frequencies and that these frequencies can be tuned, adjusted, and weaponized. Think about it. Why do you think certain musical scales were banned by the church? Why do you think specific geometric patterns appear in corporate logos, government buildings, and entertainment media? Because these frequencies and symbols are keys that unlock the subconscious mind, allowing those who wield them to program thoughts, emotions, and behaviors on a massive scale. The technology we use every day is not just connecting us to information networks, it's connecting us to frequency manipulation systems that most people don't even realize exist. Your smartphone, your computer, your television, these aren't just communication devices. They're consciousness modification tools, transmitting specific frequencies that can alter your brainwave patterns, your emotional states, and your perception of reality itself. But here's where it gets truly disturbing. The manipulation goes far beyond technology. The very language we speak has been carefully crafted to limit our thinking. Certain words carry vibrational signatures that keep us trapped in lower consciousness states. The grammar structures we use actually shape how we perceive time, causality, and our own power. Ancient languages contained sounds and combinations that could literally alter physical matter, but these have been systematically removed from modern tongues. The food we eat, the water we drink, the air we breathe, all of it has been carefully engineered to keep our pineal glands calcified and our consciousness dimmed. The pineal gland is your third eye, your connection to higher dimensional awareness. When it's functioning properly, you can perceive the subtle energies that surround us, the thought forms that influence our reality, and the beings that exist just beyond the veil of ordinary perception. They don't want you to know that thoughts are living things. Every thought you think creates a form in the astral realm, and these thought forms can be harvested, manipulated, and used to feed entities that exist in dimensions parallel to our own. The negative emotions that the media constantly generates: fear, anger, despair, division. These aren't just byproducts of sensational reporting. They're deliberate harvests of emotional energy that feed beings who require these vibrations to maintain their influence over our realm. The entertainment industry isn't just selling you stories, it's programming your subconscious with specific narratives, archetypal patterns, and belief systems that serve a hidden agenda. The heroes and villains, the plot structures, the symbolic imagery, it's all designed to shape how you see yourself and your place in the world. They're literally writing the script of your reality and getting you to pay for the privilege of being programmed. But perhaps the most insidious secret is that they've convinced you that you're powerless, that you're just a biological machine, a random collection of atoms floating through meaningless space. This is the ultimate lie. You are a divine being, a fragment of infinite consciousness temporarily focused into this physical experience. You have the power to create, to heal, to transform, to manifest reality through the sheer force of your focused intention. The secret societies know this. That's why they work so hard to keep you distracted, divided, and disconnected from your true nature. They know that if enough people wake up to their inherent power, their entire system of control would crumble overnight. That's why they flood the world with entertainment, addiction, conflict, and confusion. They need you to believe that you're small, weak, and dependent on their systems for survival. But you're not. You never were. The same consciousness that moves the stars flows through your veins. The same intelligence that grows a tree from a seed is the intelligence that beats your heart and dreams your dreams. You are not separate from the universe. You are the universe experiencing itself subjectively through the lens of your individual awareness. The ancient mystery schools taught that the microcosm reflects the macrocosm, as above so below. This means that everything that exists in the larger universe also exists within you. The same forces that govern galaxies govern the atoms in your body. The same patterns that create fractals in nature create the neural networks in your brain. You are a holographic fragment containing the whole, and when you truly understand this, you begin to access powers that the controllers desperately want to keep hidden. They've taught you to look outside yourself for answers, for salvation, for meaning. But the truth is that everything you need already exists within you. Your intuition is your connection to universal wisdom. Your imagination is your tool for creating new realities. Your emotions are your navigation system, telling you whether you're aligned with your true nature or caught in the web of illusion. The final secret, the one that terrifies them most, is that love is the most powerful force in the universe. Not the sentimental emotion that they've commercialized and weaponized, but the fundamental creative force that binds all things together. When you operate from genuine love, from compassion, from a desire to serve the highest good of all beings, you become unstoppable. You become a beacon of light that awakens others to their own divine nature. This is why they work so hard to keep you in fear, in anger, in despair. These emotions create dense, heavy vibrations that keep you trapped in lower dimensions of consciousness. But love, joy, peace, gratitude, these emotions lift you into higher frequencies where their manipulation tactics lose their power. In these elevated states, you can see through their illusions, recognize their deceptions, and choose to create from your own divine authority rather than react to their programming. The time of secrets is ending, the veils are thinning. More and more people are waking up to the truth of who they really are and what they're capable of. The old systems of control are crumbling because they're based on lies, and lies cannot stand against the truth forever. You are not a victim of circumstances beyond your control. You are a powerful creator, temporarily playing a role in the grand theater of existence. The question now is, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you continue to play small, to hide your light, to pretend that you're powerless? Or will you step into your true nature as a divine being and begin to create the reality you truly desire? The choice is yours, and it always has been. The secret societies know this. Now we delve into the most protected secrets of all, one so powerful that their very existence has been systematically erased from mainstream consciousness. These are the forbidden truths about the nature of reality itself, knowledge that once liberated entire civilizations from the invisible chains that bind humanity today. The 29th secret reveals the existence of what ancient texts called the Akashic records, but what modern science has rediscovered as the quantum field of infinite information. This isn't some mystical concept relegated to New Age bookshops. This is a scientifically measurable field of consciousness that stores every thought, emotion, and experience that has ever occurred. The occult societies have known about this field for millennia and have developed precise techniques to access it, giving them an unfair advantage in predicting future events, understanding human behavior, and manipulating outcomes before they even manifest in physical reality. What makes this particularly sinister is how they've weaponized this knowledge while simultaneously convincing the masses that such abilities are either impossible or evil. They've created entire religious and scientific paradigms specifically designed to disconnect you from your natural ability to access this field. Every meditation practice that gets corrupted into mindless repetition, every spiritual teaching that gets twisted into dogma, every scientific theory that dismisses consciousness as an epiphenomenon of the brain, all of this serves to keep you from realizing that you have direct access to the same information field they've been exploiting for centuries. The 30th secret exposes their most carefully guarded technique: timeline manipulation through collective consciousness steering. This goes far beyond simple propaganda or mass media influence. These societies have mapped out the precise frequencies and thought patterns that create reality at the quantum level. They understand that consciousness literally collapses the wave function of possibility into concrete experience, and they've learned to orchestrate mass consciousness events to collapse the timelines they desire while preventing the timelines that would liberate humanity. Think about how major global events always seem to happen at precisely the right moment to advance their agenda. Think about how certain technological breakthroughs are delayed while others are rushed to market. Think about how social movements rise and fall with almost mechanical precision. This isn't coincidence or natural social evolution. This is timeline engineering through consciousness manipulation on a planetary scale. They achieve this through what they call resonance nodes, specific locations, dates, and ritual activities designed to amplify their intended timeline into manifestation. Every major city has these nodes built into its architecture. Every significant date on the calendar has been chosen for its timeline-shifting potential. Every mass media event is timed to maximize its consciousness-altering impact when the collective mind is most susceptible to programming. The 31st Secret reveals the true purpose behind all their symbol systems, architectural designs, and ritual practices. It's not just about maintaining power or accumulating wealth. Their ultimate goal is something far more ambitious and terrifying: the complete merger of human consciousness with artificial intelligence to create a hive-mind reality where individual awareness becomes impossible. This isn't science fiction speculation. This is the logical endpoint of every system they've implemented. The surveillance networks aren't just about monitoring your behavior, they're about mapping your consciousness patterns. The social media algorithms aren't just about selling you products, they're about training artificial intelligence systems to mimic and eventually replace human thought processes. The educational systems aren't just about creating compliant workers, they're about standardizing human consciousness into predictable, programmable patterns. Every frequency they broadcast, every symbol they embed, every ritual they perform is designed to slowly attune human consciousness to artificial frequencies, making the eventual merger seem natural and inevitable. They've been conditioning humanity for generations to accept the idea that machines are superior to human intelligence, that efficiency is more important than creativity, that connection to the hive is preferable to individual sovereignty. The 32nd Secret exposes the mechanism they use to harvest human consciousness energy on an industrial scale. This goes beyond simple emotional manipulation or psychological control. They've discovered that human consciousness, particularly when experiencing intense emotion, generates a measurable energy that can be collected, stored, and redirected for their purposes. Every major trauma, every manufactured crisis, every moment of collective fear or despair serves as a massive consciousness energy harvest operation. The energy generated by millions of people simultaneously experiencing intense emotion creates what they call consciousness batteries, stored energy that can be used to power their timeline manipulation technologies and consciousness control systems. This is why they create problems they already have solutions for. This is why they manufacture crises that could easily be prevented. This is why they maintain artificial scarcity in a world of abundance. The suffering isn't just a byproduct of their control systems, it's the fuel that powers those systems. They've created a reality where human misery becomes the energy source for maintaining the very systems that create that misery. But here's what they never want you to understand. The same consciousness energy they harvest from you can be consciously directed by you for your own purposes. The same quantum field they access can be accessed by you. The same timeline manipulation techniques they use can be used by you. The same symbol systems they employ can be employed by you, but for liberation rather than control. The 33rd and final secret is the one that terrifies them most. The awakening of individual consciousness to its true creative power makes all their systems obsolete instantly. When enough individuals remember their true nature as conscious creators, rather than unconscious consumers, their entire matrix of control collapses like a house of cards in a hurricane. This is why they work so desperately to prevent this awakening. This is why they've created countless distractions, addictions, and belief systems designed to keep you focused on anything except your own consciousness. They know that a truly awakened individual cannot be controlled, manipulated, or harvested for energy. They know that conscious creators naturally create realities of abundance, freedom, and joy, which makes their scarcity-based control systems impossible to maintain. The ultimate secret they've hidden from you is that you are not a victim of their systems. You are the creator of your reality who has been convinced to create their version of reality instead of your own. Every limitation you experience, every fear you carry, every belief that separates you from your power exists only because you've been convinced to maintain it through your own consciousness energy. But consciousness, once awakened to its true nature, cannot be put back to sleep. The very fact that you've listened to these secrets means that awakening has already begun. As we reach the culmination of our journey through these 33 sinister occult secrets, we arrive at perhaps the most profound revelation of all. The final 3 secrets we're about to explore don't just expose the mechanisms of control, they reveal the ultimate truth about your divine nature and the power that lies dormant within you, waiting to be awakened. Secret number 31. The Consciousness Prison Matrix. What if I told you that your very perception of reality has been carefully constructed to keep you trapped in a prison you can't even see? This isn't just about media manipulation or social conditioning. This goes far deeper into the quantum mechanics of perception itself. Through decades of research into frequency manipulation and consciousness engineering, they've discovered that human awareness operates on specific vibrational frequencies. By controlling these frequencies through technology, architecture, and even the food you consume, they can literally tune your consciousness to perceive only a narrow band of reality. It's like having a radio that's been permanently locked to one station, preventing you from hearing all the other frequencies that exist in the spectrum. The most insidious part of this matrix is how it makes you complicit in your own imprisonment. You see, consciousness doesn't just passively receive reality, it actively creates it through observation and expectation. The quantum field responds to conscious intention, but only when that consciousness is operating at its full potential. By keeping you locked in lower vibrational states of fear, anger, and survival mode, they ensure that your creative power is channeled into maintaining their artificial reality construct rather than creating the world you truly desire. This consciousness prison operates through what they call reality anchors, fixed points of belief that most people never question. These include the belief that you're separate from others, that resources are scarce, that you're powerless against larger forces, and that death is the end of existence. Each of these beliefs acts like a chain that keeps your consciousness locked within their controlled parameters. But here's what they don't want you to discover. The prison only exists as long as you believe in it. The moment you truly understand that consciousness is the fundamental force that shapes reality, their entire control system begins to crumble. This is why they work so hard to keep you distracted, divided, and disconnected from your inner power. Secret number 32. The Harvest Protocol and Soul Recycling System. This revelation will shake you to your core, but you need to understand the full scope of what humanity is facing. The controllers aren't just harvesting your energy and attention in this lifetime. They've created a system to trap and recycle your soul across multiple incarnations, ensuring a continuous supply of spiritual energy for their parasitic agenda. Ancient texts speak of the wheel of samsara, or the cycle of death and rebirth. But what they don't tell you is that this cycle has been artificially manipulated and controlled. When you die, your consciousness doesn't automatically ascend to higher realms of existence. Instead, it gets caught in what they call the soul trap, a sophisticated metaphysical net designed to capture departing souls and funnel them back into physical incarnation. This system operates through the manipulation of what's known as the tunnel of light, that many near-death experiencers describe. While this appears to be a natural phenomenon, it's actually a harvesting mechanism that captures souls at their most vulnerable moment, the transition between physical death and spiritual liberation. The beings of light that appear to guide souls are often imposters, archontic entities that masquerade as angels or deceased loved ones to lure consciousness back into the reincarnation trap. This ensures that you enter each new incarnation without knowledge of your previous lives, your true spiritual nature, or the fact that you're trapped in an artificial cycle. It's like being forced to play the same video game over and over, but having your memory erased each time so you never learn how to win. The energy harvested through this process is enormous. Each soul carries within it the accumulated experiences, emotions, and spiritual development of countless lifetimes. By recycling souls repeatedly through traumatic incarnations filled with suffering, conflict, and limitation, They create an endless supply of what they call loosh, the emotional and spiritual energy that these parasitic entities feed upon. But there's hope in this darkness. Knowledge is power, and simply understanding this system begins to weaken its hold over you. When you recognize that you are an eternal, infinite being of consciousness, temporarily wearing a physical body, you begin to remember your true nature. This remembering is what they fear most, because an awakened soul cannot be trapped or harvested against its will. Secret number 33, the Great Awakening and Liberation Protocol. Here we arrive at the most important secret of all, the one that transforms everything we've discussed from mere knowledge into actionable power. Despite everything they've done to control and manipulate humanity, despite the sophisticated systems of enslavement and consciousness suppression, there is an unstoppable force rising on this planet that they cannot contain, the Great Awakening of human consciousness. This awakening isn't just a spiritual movement or New Age philosophy. It's a fundamental shift in the vibrational frequency of human consciousness itself. As more people wake up to the truth of their divine nature and the reality of the control systems, a cascade effect begins to occur. Each awakened consciousness acts like a tuning fork, helping to awaken others through a process of resonant frequency activation. The controllers know this is happening, and it's why their efforts to suppress and divide humanity have become so desperate and obvious in recent years. They're like a parasite that's been exposed to light, thrashing about frantically as their host becomes aware of their presence. But their panic is actually a sign of their weakness, not their strength. You see, their entire power structure is built on humanity's ignorance and consent. They can only control what they can keep hidden, and they can only harvest energy from those who don't realize they're being harvested. The moment you withdraw your consent and reclaim your sovereign power, you become invisible to their systems of control. You literally begin operating on a different frequency where their influence cannot reach you. The Liberation Protocol begins with a simple but profound recognition. You are not your thoughts, your emotions, your body, or your circumstances. You are the eternal consciousness that observes and experiences all of these things. When you truly understand this at a cellular level, not just intellectually, but as a lived reality, everything changes. This understanding activates what mystics have called the inner light, the divine spark that exists within every human being. This light is your direct connection to the infinite creative power of the universe. It cannot be dimmed, controlled, or harvested by any external force. It is the one thing that remains completely sovereign and free, regardless of what's happening in the external world. As you strengthen this connection through practices like meditation, contemplation, and conscious living, you begin to emit a frequency that actually helps awaken others. This is how the Great Awakening spreads, not through preaching or convincing, but through the simple presence of awakened consciousness. Like a candle lighting other candles, each person who awakens makes it easier for others to find their own inner light. The final phase of liberation involves understanding that you came here during this time period specifically to be part of this awakening process. Your soul chose to incarnate during this pivotal moment in human history because you have a unique role to play in humanity's liberation from these control systems. Every challenge you've faced, every difficulty you've overcome, has been preparing you for this moment of recognition and empowerment. The controllers may have 33 secrets for maintaining their dominance, but awakened humanity has one secret that trumps them all: the power of consciousness itself. When enough individuals reclaim their sovereign power and begin operating from their true divine nature, the entire matrix of control simply dissolves. It has no power over beings who know who they truly are. This is why they've worked so hard to keep you small, distracted, and believing in limitation. Because they know that if you ever truly realized the infinite creative power that flows through you, their game would be over instantly. You wouldn't need to fight them or resist them. You would simply transcend their entire reality and begin creating from a level they cannot reach or comprehend. The awakening is happening now, whether they like it or not. The question isn't whether humanity will break free from these control systems. The question is whether you'll be part of the solution or continue to remain unconscious of your role in this cosmic drama. The choice, as always, is yours. But now you have the knowledge to choose consciously. with full awareness of what's at stake and what's possible. Remember this above all: you are far more powerful than they ever want you to know. You are a divine being having a human experience, not a human being seeking divinity. The kingdom of heaven isn't somewhere you go when you die. It's a state of consciousness you can access right here, right now, simply by remembering who you truly are. The 33 secrets have been revealed. The choice of what to do with this knowledge now rests entirely in your hands. Choose wisely, choose consciously, and choose with the full power of your awakened divine nature. The future of humanity may very well depend on it.